We're in Brunswick, Georgia, and we are going to transform this 3,800 square foot dead parking lot into a multifunctional, multi-use area with our play turf and drain tile system. So the first thing we're doing is we're getting all the plant life out of here. This parking lot's been neglected for quite some time. So we want to get all of the big vegetation out, kind of assess how bad the cracks and damage and stuff are. And then we'll go through and we'll spray some weed killer on this that's good for 6 months to a year, just to make sure we don't have any of this stuff popping back up on us later. Now the root systems on these are pretty extensive, and these things are, it's as thick as a pencil, so it's important that we get all of this out so that it doesn't start to regrow. So let's clean all this up. Stick with us. Now, in parts of the parking lot here, we've got a lot of just depressions, and that's either just the concrete wasn't finished properly, so it created some bowls, and or over time, maybe some of that concrete sagged. You can see we got a lot of cracks. So this one, there's currently a drain in it, and apparently that drain was clogged up, it wasn't working. And so the other areas where we've got some puddling, we want to get that water out, because what happens is, and you'll start to see that, in that bowl, it collects all the sediment, collects all the organic material, collects all the dirt, the leaves, the debris, which was what was clogging up this drain. And as that starts to basically break down, you can run into where you've got things are growing, mold issues, etc. So we want to try to get the water out as quickly as possible. And one of the reasons why we use the drain tile, because we elevate the turf off the ground to create airflow to allow this to dry faster. And also it helps even out a lot of the crack areas and stuff there too. So we're going to go ahead and let this drain do its thing, and then in any of the other areas where we need some extra help, we're going to put in some extra drain holes through the concrete to allow the water to go through the concrete underneath into the subbase and drain out. Once you've cleared the area of all the major debris, it's a good idea to go back with a broom and or a blower and just clean off all the loose stuff that you may have missed. Try to collect all that organic material and or dirt and sand, get it condensed into a pile, and just get it out of the area just so you've got a cleaner surface to work with below. So now what we're doing, this is our synthetic nailer board. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's almost 4 inches wide or tall, depending on how you want to lay it down. Now for this particular application, what we're actually going to do is we're going to lay this flat on the ground, very similar to a tack strip for carpet. Well, we don't need all of 4 inches of this, so what we're actually going to do is we're going to rip this in half, right down the middle, and then we only just need it wide enough so that we can actually drill into it to add our compression screw. Now, what I like to use These are red heads. These are hammer set. They're compression nails. And I like the 2-inch. So what this is a nail within a sleeve. And as we drill into this with the hammer drill, this essentially just goes right through the hole that we made. We tap it in. It basically creates compression, or it causes the nail to expand the metal out and around, and it doesn't come out. Works fantastic. You can still use tap cons. I find this to be a lot faster to utilize and work with. But again, it's whatever you prefer. So we're going to rip this in half, and your end result is going to be just a little less than a 2-inch wide strip, which is plenty of room to go ahead along the perimeter and to drill a hole and get this secured. Now, this is 3/4 of an inch thick, which actually happens to be the same thickness as our drain tile. So what works out fantastic is this becomes our perimeter nailer board edge that we have fixed into the concrete, and then we put on the inside field, we put our drain tile. So we're going to go ahead and rip these and get these to go all around the perimeter, and then we'll tack them in, and then we'll start working on the tile. Now, being that these are 20 feet long, it's best to do this with a partner. You've got one guy feeding and the other guy holding it up to keep the nailer board on the table and in place. Our perimeter nailer board in that we've ripped in half, and we've secured it in with the red heads. We're going to start dropping in our drain tiles. Now, these drain tiles are 10 1/4 by 10 1/4. There's 4 of them across, so they're just under 4 by 4. So they lay in pretty quickly. What you want to do, you hook and receiver side. Over here, essentially would be the receiver here. So if you look, got your receiver points there. What you want to do is you pick a pattern. So what we did is we went smooth side against the wall and smooth side against the wall. And we're running about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch distance away from the wall. And the reason why we're doing that, this is plastic. And because it's plastic, it's susceptible to expansion and contraction due to the elements. So what you don't want to do is run this flush up against the wall. Like today, it's a bit cooler, and then it heats up and retains all that heat, and it expands, and then the whole thing buckles underneath, and you get a lot of waves and stuff. So you want to give yourself 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch all the way around to allow it to expand and move. So what we're going to do is just drop it in place. It's a really simple. You just push in, and you hear that click, you know you've got it locked in. What you don't want to do is jam it and force it, and you don't want to bend those little prongs, because once they're bent, then it's virtually impossible to get them in, and it's no good. So again, all we're doing, light pressure, you're going to hear a click. If you need to move it a little bit, you can use your palm and it'll snap into place. Now, if you get a stubborn area that just doesn't want to seem to go, you can kick in backwards with your heel. That'll help close the distance. So what we're going to do now, if you've got them in place, this is obviously faster this way. You're just going to go by feel. You hear click, 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 and it's good to go. Just don't force it. So with 2-3 guys, we can lay this in really quick. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, it's always good to try and stay working within the same pattern, because if you work, as I'm doing, I guess, depending on what angle you're at, from one side to the other, and then you go in reverse and then work backwards that way, it becomes a little bit more difficult to put the hooks into the loops, and you've got to lift it up and try and shimmy it under. So just a tip, try and stay with the same direction you've been going, just to make it easier. Now, you can use different ways to cut this. Believe it or not, just a sharp razor blade, carpet blade works just fine. Just apply enough pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and get this shape cut in, and then we'll get this whole doorway cut in, and then we'll be ready to roll turf down in this one section. Now we just want to push down, apply enough pressure, and a brand new razor blade will just cut right through this very easily. All right, now that we're up in the doorway, the building and the parking lot, this is a very old building, very old parking lot, everything's not exactly square. So you're going to get instances where we're off on different angles. This court tile system is very versatile to work with, so all we're going to do is just continue our pattern. And what I'm doing is I'm not snapping it in, but I'm laying it over top so I know exactly where it is. I'm just taking a 90, and I'm going to maintain that 1/2 inch distance spacing. So all I do, just use a marker. I mark my line. Now, what I like to use is obviously just my blade. I've already got my line. Once it gets started, it goes pretty quick and easy. And even when you have to jump a row, just go nice and slow, take your time, and it cuts very easy. And then we'll just go ahead and snap it in. Now we got a little bit of a elevation change here, so we'll have to assist this a little bit. And then here we lost one of the hooks. Now, where this is popping up because we got an elevation change in the concrete, that's okay, because once we put the turf over it and we put the turf here, we're going to drill into it and secure it, so then that way it's easy to lock this all into place. Now we got all the tile laid, and we've got all of the turf laid out into basically their rough positions where they're going to go. So we're going to start on this end first, and the reason why is because that end we already have to cut some material off, so we're just going to work basically right to left in this situation. So the first thing we're going to want to do, which we already did, we squared the turf up to the wall here. This is going to be now our straight edge. The building, the other walls here, they're a little crooked, so we just picked end to go with, which is the wall here. Now you'll see we've got excess here and we've got some down there. So what we're going to do, we're going to all along here, and then we're from end almost to the end. We'll probably stay about 2 feet off the where the seam is going to be, and then from here take our kickers. We're going to start kicking up this way. Now the sun's out, so this is heating up, it's expanding. You can see some wrinkles in the other turf. We're going to kick those wrinkles out. We're going to push all that material up this way, and that will probably pick up an extra inch or two of turf. And then we're going to cut this turf to match the building here in the door frame, and then we'll go ahead and secure this in down here because it's already out in the sun. Then we're going to go to the next panel, and we're going to line it up with the basically the seam, very similar like we did with the wall, and we're going to repeat the process 5 more times going this way. So let's jump on this and get going. Now I've actually already kicked out earlier, but I'm just going to show you what we do. So generally what I like to do, and you can start either in the middle or the left or the right, but we're probably about a third of the way up, and we're just going to take our kicker. And you can see I've pulled up some material. So this is stretched even more since it's been in the sun over the past hour. Now, I'm going to stay in with what I already did so that my kicks are even. So I'm going to go now middle. And then I'll go over to the edge. Now I'll walk it up and go up about maybe another third of the way. Start in the same location, kick it forward, go to the middle, and what this is allowing me to do is to ensure that I'm evenly pulling all the way across the material, because if I only kick in one section, it'll cause this to get pulled and it'll leave lateral or diagonal lines on the opposite side. So you just want to make sure that when you kick, you do it evenly all the way across. Which is really nice, this turf slides very easily over these drain tiles, which obviously if I was trying to kick this on landscaping over top of indoor road base, it'd be a lot more difficult. So this makes it really nice and easy. Now that I've got it kicked and all the wrinkles are out, we're going to go ahead and get this cut down here and secure it in just like we did there, and then we'll work on to the next panel over. Now obviously it was important that we didn't cut this tab off that was on this side, because we need this to fall back in and see where it lies into place here. And it's okay that if I make a overcut, because it's just going to fall right back into place on the same line that it came from. So anytime you make a longer cut than that's needed on a vertical line, that's okay, because it's just like putting in a regular seam. We'll just follow right between the bead rows. Well, needless to say, it's a little embarrassing, but just so you know, even the pros make mistakes from time to time, and this is one of them. So yes, I like to leave my glue tube sitting out in the sun to heat up, but it's pretty bright out today, pretty hot, and I guess I left them in the sun for too long, because what happened was I grabbed a new tube, came over, and I don't know if I just squeezed a little bit to apply some pressure, but the whole back end of the tube fell out and all the glue poured onto my turf. Now, when I'm doing training sessions, I'll actually squirt some glue on the turf. Everybody kind of freaks out, you know, you get some gasps, but then I just show them that because this is moisture activated, what we want to do is we'll just pour some water on it. Normally it's a little gob like this. I've never had this much on it, but it reacts the same. So what we're going to do, we're just going to pour water all over this. Now there's a lot here, but we're just going to pour water all over this, and we'll come back in an hour or so and check on it, and I'll keep pouring water on it periodically. But what'll happen is this will kind of foam up a little bit, expand, and then we'll just be able to peel it off. So I'm a little bit more bummed that I wasted this much glue, and now I gotta check on it. Could delay me from getting off this project for another hour or so until this dries enough that I can peel it off. But again, don't panic. Just pour water all over your glue drops. Don't try to dig it out and like scrape it out, because you just make it worse. Just leave it, pour the water on it, check on it periodically. It's probably gonna take 2 hours or so, maybe less, and then I can just peel the whole thing off.